Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Play the Game. I'm Rusty. Joining me today is Ash, and then Erica, and then Robert. My lovely wife Felicia is not able to join us today, and we weren't sure if Erica was going to be able to, so we didn't have all of our stuff ready for like a full-on session. So what you're getting instead is a special, just kind of hang out and ask me anything type of deal. So we are just going to have a bit of a kind of open forum chat about the campaign and the characters, about Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones in general, about the RPG mechanics or other RPG stuff, or just whatever the heck else people ask us. So thank you for swinging by. We do have a brief handful of questions that people have already sent us while we were prepping for this. So we're probably going to jump in on some of those, um, unless anybody else has any other opening business, because we are formal practitioners of parliamentary procedure here on Play the Game, famously so.
I mean, I just say that
But
like the question of how did Adam get so gay has already been answered, so I will not be answering that again.
fair.
Well, there goes all my fucking questions.
Well, all right then. Let's. Erica's just cracking herself up over there. Oh, I missed that. I missed that.
I figured you saw and start laughing.
Um, so I guess we'll jump in on some of the prepped questions. For each one, like Ash, I know you are playing the Master of Whispers this session. But do let us know like who asked the question, so
Yeah,
that they can get credit for any interesting discussion that ensues.
yeah, definitely. I'll start like I've got like one that was kind of broad that I think would be a good opener, and it is one that I came up with earlier, thinking
I'm
it
going
would
to
be.
filibuster this question. We're doing the Parliament thing, right? Or
We're just
have we
gonna
gone too long since that joke?
start. I'm going to begin reading the Game of Thrones RPG book from cover to cover to keep any of these questions from happening.
My favorite chapter. One
Yeah,
half of the table, the other half is on the other side of the book for.
I am now going to read my A Sea of Spears / fic for you all.
All right,
No,
let's do it.
I'm not going to do that. Yeah.
I bet the word tot is used a lot.
Taut? Did you say
Tot. Yeah, like something is tot.
T as in TAUT?
I don't know how to spell either versions of that word.
You poor boy. The education system clearly failed you.
Yeah, I'm American. And
That's
on
what it,
top of that, I had to learn English spelling, which you guys fucked up long before we got to it. I had no hope.
I'm waiting for a. We learned it from you, Dad.
I mean, and then we gave him on teaching. So yeah, I mean there's blame on all sides. I'm just saying.
Okay.
so let's hit
Yes.
us with the question.
Yes. So, how do you feel that things are going? Like, are we way off what you expected, or are we going more or less to plan? And like, everyone can answer that, but obviously, like, he's going to have a different. Uh, I, I guess you could do either or both. Like, I was interested to see like how all of his like how our sort of assumptions and expectations have like been subverted or fulfilled, and like how our
Uh,
sort of idea of the game has evolved, because it's been going for a long time now.
there's some issue with your sound, Erica. I didn't know. Okay, just fine. And also, hi, Guitar. Thanks for stopping
I,
by. I'm gonna have other people answer that first. But since Erica's busy with tech stuff, let's do Robert.
I guess I don't have an opinion. I not sure how I would have foreseen things. It's been a little while, and I do think in character things are going suspiciously smoothly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree there.
All right, so first test,
Uh,
test. So, Kotar, let me know if you can hear me. But now,
if I had to make a comment, it would be I haven't didn't probably didn't expect the characters to be so well developed, which I think they are.
I'm
I
like,
mean,
I thought you guys were awful at this.
Yeah, I thought
What
you
do
guys would just be
like,
fucking shit.
do you mean just
And
for like PCs, or do you mean like
Yeah.
NPCs as well?
well, I was sort of the PCs, but yeah, NPCs as well. I think we've seen a lot. We've had a lot of moments to see a lot of shades and sides of various characters. Um, I got a good feeling for like the personalities of all the player characters, and most of the NPCs too. Some of that is they're well wrote to begin with, and then a lot of that is rusty as well. The canon characters, I mean, in that case. But not that I expected to be bad. Just yeah, we've seen a lot of facets of a lot of people, and I can't always say that about characters in other games. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But so something like that.
Cool. Yeah, I think I was also kind of surprised by just kind of how much sort of emotional and psychological depth we've managed to get into.
sorry
Um,
about that.
Wait, what?
Oh, there's a really loud car outside my window, so sorry if you
Oh,
heard that.
I didn't hear it at all. Sorry. But how dare they? I shake my fist at them. And like I think we're doing well because like we've had like the arcs that we've done so far have all ended with like a kind of good or neutral outcome. Like we've kind of made the best out of some difficult situations, and we've even had situations that like we know could have resolved a lot worse. So I think we're sitting in a good position just now. But I feel similarly to Robert, like it's a little too quiet. I'm waiting for something to kick off, basically.
Maybe that's a subject we could come back around to in a little
Sure.
bit.
Yeah, totally.
So
I also expected Adam to be getting his way more often. And it's probably a good thing that he doesn't.
maybe.
So
For my part, I when we started playing this, I had just basically binged the entirety of the Game of Thrones. In fact, like the final season was still being broadcast when we had started this, I believe. And so like that was my entirety knowledge of the setting and such. And my only other like fantasy type of RPG I've played in before is like D&D Pathfinder kind of stuff. So uh, this sort of RPG has a bit of a different focus to it. So kind of like leaning away from being combat heavy is what I was expecting kind of coming in, a little bit more dynamics and interpersonal politics and politicking between families and maybe even siblings. I didn't know how things were going to shake out. Like sometimes PCs are like all in it together and there's like this understood handshake of nothing's going to like go sour between them. Even if it's like for good storytelling. I didn't know if we would have that or not. I kind of feel like we do, and I don't know that we necessarily discussed it all that thoroughly, but I sort of feel like we've sort of built that camaraderie a bit as PCs, which I thought was pretty cool. But I guess to like my benefit, maybe as a player, my character is sort of slotted as the marshal of the group. So like a little bit more in congruence with my previous role play experience. So it was a little bit more easy to swing into a bit more of the role play heavier kind of sides. And so sometimes I still feel like I struggle a bit on where to like interject myself, but I've been having fun with it as we've gone along. You all make it a little bit easier for me to get into and interact with characters because of how good you all role play and you're fun to be around. So that's really cool. Uh, Bale is a fun character. Like she's very stabby and she's not really high on martial skills compared to a lot of the people that she's fought in these tournaments. She's routinely outperformed her stats, I will say. And a lot of that has to do with destiny points being used very strategically uh, by me. And
which is also
it's part of the game,
part of
right?
the setting. I mean, if you look at
Yeah.
even going to the show instead of the books, how often does Jon Snow look confident while he fights in the first 7 seasons, let's say, right? Like how often is he not presented as the underdog when by the end of the series he's arguably the best fighter in Westeros, or supposed to be, right? But it's like, look at how often he's scrambling and dropping his sword and looking outmatched
Mhm.
until that moment of destiny point expenditure where he lands the one good shot and like learns something from that fight in theory, and does better next time. So yeah, some of that I think is a credit to the mechanic. I
Mm-hmm.
like any game that has a destiny point style uh thing. And I think that the economy has certainly favored you lot more than favored NPCs, which has also been by design. So I think that's been really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely feel
I
very.
was going to add there too.
Oh, go ahead.
Um, One thing I will say is a lot of the individual combat Baylor's had to face are in tourney settings. And the very powerful tourney night quality has kept many of your opponents up where you would have defeated them on like the battlefield. I feel like in the show or the books, Ned Stark doesn't have tourney night, but he's a very good fighter.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't applicable to an actual battle. Although most of the same characters are also still quite skilled. So I think there's some of that.
Yeah, I found that the combat's been very challenging and rewarding from strategizing and while also having enough randomness to every roll feels dramatic to me because even if whether I feel like I have a slight advantage or a slight disadvantage, I don't know how the dice are gonna go, and
It's a
there's like there's like a margin of error for like a couple of times where you can not do as well before you have that catastrophic failure and like be downed from the got knocked off your horse, right? And sometimes the stats just line up in a way that my only hope of defeating my opponent is if they have that catastrophic failure of just rolling really poorly when it comes to that ride check to stay on the horse, right? And so like sometimes it's just trying to outlast your opponent, which is a very real strategy. And
yeah,
it's just
definitely.
knowing which situation is going to be that one for Bela. So the jousting's felt really interesting that way, and it's felt fun.
In case it hasn't been like obvious, I quite like tourneys, not just because I'm a geek for like jousting and duels and stuff, but also just like as a GM, it's a cool way to use combat rules, and the players don't die if they lose, right? Like it's a way to lean on some of those mechanics and still have stakes, right? Like there's
Right.
still some skin in the game, but
And
you're
as an
not
old
losing
anime
a
fan,
character. Uh, so yeah, like it's been we have spent more time on tourneys than I planned, but I think it's because like they've been fun, and it's like I said, it's a
Mhm.
nice way to martially challenge characters and let them show off, and they're not gonna die if they do have that unlucky roll, which is also kind of like what they were for in real life,
Yeah,
right? Like it
I
was
was
a
Mhm.
chance
yeah.
to show off without dying, probably.
It's exactly what I was
So
gonna say. Yeah, it's like it was like that in real life because
yeah,
being really martial and being good at fighting is a skill that you want to show off and brag about, but you
yeah.
don't want to risk dying from
plus
these. right?
Yeah.
How many? We were in some very real fights, but how many of those had witnesses to them?
I mean, you guys have had some because you've had some allied NPCs hanging out a lot,
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
There's stories and stuff,
no,
but
not that audience.
We also had a fucking trial by 7 that
Yes.
like a lot of King's Landing was watching.
now see that's the case. That was also very intense.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It was, yeah. I was genuinely afraid that like I was gonna get someone killed with my bad rolls. Because yeah, if I'd taken one more hit, then it would have been up to the Hound basically whether Lynn lived or died. And I definitely don't trust him to not kill him.
Yeah, a hound's not generally the
He's not the
not
merciful
kill him,
one.
not the,
Yeah.
the not. I'll go out of my way to pull my blow. Said.
Could you
a Clegane-
imagine?
Said any Clegane ever. Like,
Could you imagine a nightmare world where Lynn Corbray isn't around?
then Adam falls in love with the hound instead. He's all, hello, little wyvern.
He has
Oh,
these
no.
memories of the Hound kissing him. No one else has.
Just,
Oh no, it's too scary.
You know what? I'm a little behind it actually. The Hound deserves love.
Robert immediately
Oh,
starts on some fan art.
Let's see. Let's start.
Absolutely, he's just not quite Adam's type.
To circle back to the main question, 15 minutes later, for my part, you guys have done a couple things better than I expected in terms of just, and some of that's, dusty points and good decisions and die rolls. Like, there's enough random factors. It hasn't derailed anything, but it's meant I haven't needed a couple of the like safety nets that I tried to build in for. If they fail here, this happens. As a for instance, if you lost the battle with Jonathor Sand, the Vulture King, that late army was gonna arrive in time. So, like, I had a safety net there where it wouldn't be a total party kill and the failure of the arc. You were gonna like fall back and they were gonna start a siege, and then this other army would arrive. You guys would charge while the other army charged, but you wouldn't have looked as good, right? Like, you would have lost some of that renown, and stuff like that would have gone different. So
That's really
I've been
interesting.
trying to build in like levels of success in a lot of things, and sticking with the Vulture King arc, because it's probably where I did the most work on this, trying to set it up. You guys also aced, I want to say, like every one of the side quests, basically. So like you had every advantage that you could have gotten, going into that last fight. The only one you didn't was the one you didn't try, because I had set it up so that you couldn't try everything.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, that was another part. They had lots of moving parts that none of them may have necessarily decided that battle, right? But as it was, you guys were just stacking the deck in your favor. But every one of those was a potential failure point that wasn't necessarily a catastrophic failure point, because if he had gotten away, you guys would have recognized Cletus Ironwood as he was leaving. But then it comes down to like a he said, she said, right? Where you're like listen, like, we saw him,
It's just like the Ironwoods.
right?
Yeah.
And then that potentially turns into a whole other thing of, does this turn into an accusation with Robert or with Prince Doran? Does that turn into a trial by combat? So there was ways that could have evolved, and just I've been trying to do a lot of what ifs. Like, what if this doesn't work? Okay, then it goes here instead. And I've been trying to build in, layers of success and failure, and pretty consistently, you guys have just been like, no, let's just get an A. How about that? Let's just get an A on this one too, right? So I'm like, okay, like, it's been pretty, smooth sailing there.
The only the only one that wasn't a total success is when we attacked the Vulture
We're
Queen's
gonna talk about that.
camp,
Right, and she
she
escaped.
swam away.
Yeah,
The one that got
Unfortunately.
away, literally.
yeah. So she got away, but you guys still definitely
Yeah.
won the fight and stuff. So yeah, that was a good reminder.
So it's like a
Um,
B, a solid B.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Hope to see her again.
yeah, but that sort of thing has just been happening
You run
fairly
around naked next time
consistently.
you insult a bandit camp, and I'll give it a B.
Yeah.
I'm probably a smaller target than you, so I might catch less arrows.
So yeah,
'Cause you're
overall,
slow.
the campaign has been progressing as expected, not necessarily at the pace I expected, because I've still completely given up on predicting when you guys are gonna stop and
We
be
get there when we
fascinated
get
by
there.
something, and like, and even this
Yeah.
was just in the most recent couple of sessions where I was just making lists of people that were going to be guests, and then you're like, we're keeping this one. And I was just like,
Man,
fuck, okay. Like, it's not the worst, fine. You're building your team of bastard super friends.
oh.
I don't know what this one brings to the table necessarily, but sure. But it was just like I was not
We collect
expecting
all
that,
the teams to Westeros. We gotta. They do like a Captain Planet thing. Like they
Yeah,
combine.
you know,
Captain Bastard.
Captain
Um,
Bastard.
so some
Was
of that,
I all things here? Is it in the book?
Yeah.
A great name.
so some of that's been a little throwing off what I think will get done in a given session, for instance. But that always happens. It's supposed to. We've got a group of 6 people, and you can never predict who's gonna kind of have their attention caught by something, including the GM. Like, Lord, like there's times that I've gone on longer about something that I meant to, or you guys have like forgotten something, and I've tried, remind you, and then because I'm just talking about fucking Westeros, it takes me a little longer than I planned, and you know, um,
For
but yeah,
anybody watching this live in the actual Caesar's channel, I posted my first meme for Sea of Spears just now.
Yes, I saw.
what is this in Twitch or in Discord or where?
in
No,
the
it's
Discord.
in the Dark Wings
In Discord.
channel.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to
Cool.
describe it, Robert?
Oh, it's an Easter egg.
Okay. Well, it's an Easter egg. You'll have to join our Discord
right.
channel
So
down below.
go check the Discord. So yeah, overall though, you guys are definitely still like on course for the stuff that I have had planned. Which again, rather ironically, after the wedding arc, what sparked this campaign idea begins. That's where we're at.
We're
What-
still
what
in
got me,
the preview.
like, this is still
Prologue.
It's-
Two Electric
Prologue.
Boogaloo.
it's adding the complexity that I wanted to it. But yeah, like this is all building to what gave me the initial idea of when we needed a game to start in 3 days. I was like, oh shit, I could do this. Yeah, okay. And like, yeah, so it's which is not me saying that the remainder of the campaign is going to take 2 years or whatever. It's just been like a really cool build up to it. And it's been doing what I wanted in terms of drawing in allies and I hope and I feel at least grounding you guys in Westeros pretty solidly with networks of NPCs that and have interacted with and all that good stuff.
So,
But yeah, it just it cracked me up that I'm just like, yeah, we're almost to what I pictured for the campaign start. Yes, only took 2 years.
yeah, so maybe that's a good point to transition to a topic of sort of like the current wedding arc season and our connections to other families in Westeros, and maybe the implications for what it might mean for House Nymerian going forward.
I have a
right?
question to add to that.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So I never found out, and I don't know if you're holding it back or not, Rusty, what mechanical advantage marrying into House Toland might bring.
Give me a second, and I will go look it up.
Hmm.
Um, assuming that the betrothal continues apace, and that both parties survive until the wedding, and that the wedding goes fine, and everybody lives through it. Uh, it was
What
going
is
to
on?
be just. Do you want the? It's not really a spoiler, but it's mechanically a bit of a spoiler. Um, you are going to get a +1 on status rolls, personally, for being Lord Consort of Ghost Hill. Which, keep in mind, is not Lord. It's like
I knew it.
you're
Sir.
functionally like
You're,
you're kind of the lady of the house everywhere
you're the
else,
first,
but
you're the first
yeah.
gentleman.
Fine.
But I figured that's good for like a +1, uh, and then due to increased trade, House Nymerian will be getting +1 wealth point, and an ongoing +3 to House Fortune rolls. So,
All right. Cool.
yeah. And actually, the +1 wealth point is a dowry. Basically, it's in the Westerosi tradition. Um, so yeah, there are some mechanical benefits to kind of that title.
So originally there was going to be some mechanical stuff, and then I think everyone just chose somebody based on story reasons.
Well, and
So didn't come up that much.
there are still mechanical ones to others.
Well, I never asked. So,
Yeah.
but
Because I worked up the list for everybody with kind of a little blurb um, that was kind of the sales pitch that you guys were going to get, and then the list of mechanical things. And included in the mechanical things that I haven't told you is also I'm running a tally of kind of your rep in each of the 7 kingdoms. Like it's not like super detailed, but it's just I'm just putting tally marks, like literally just hash marks of pluses and minuses at what I think are kind of key moments. Um, and for instance, marrying Balin Swan makes the Stormlands like you a little bit more. This is partially because House Swan has a good reputation, partially because you're visiting there sometimes, and it's increased normality of you being around and vice versa. So stuff like that is adding up.
Yeah.
But for instance, if Felicia had gone for Beric Dondarrion, uh, the Lord of Blackhaven is a catch, and there's a good amount of money to be found there and stuff. So it'd be an ongoing +3 to House Fortune rolls, uh, and a bonus to Stormlands.
But we would have
But
lost, like,
you
yeah.
would have would have been a -2 with Dane and a -1 with Dorn. Because she is nominally the biggest catch of the house, and her running off with a betrothed Stormlander that she stole from another, it would have
Scandalous.
had repercussions.
Yeah.
So yeah, like everybody's got some little stuff like that that are also being accounted for.
Rusty, Qatar brings up a really
yeah.
interesting idea just now in the chat. Is that we didn't even talk about this, but since Sir Balin is a more traditional, right, from a more traditional house, would I have needed to have brought some sort of dowry?
There
Okay.
probably was a dowry off screen.
Yeah.
I don't want to try to come up with a numerical figure, and I also didn't want to punish the house for someone getting married by going, yeah, no, you guys need to scrape together a couple wealth points, right? Like so, but yeah, like there was probably some sort of dowry offered, and um, it may have
I
just been
imagine
like,
Grandpa took care of it, probably.
yeah, like a wagon full of wine barrels, or something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be wealth, but yeah. So there was
creepy little
something,
cultist.
but I tried to set these up to be more mechanically beneficent to the house. So when Luke marries a lady, we get the dowry from the lady's family. But when a lady from Nymeria marries somebody else, I'm not going to go, all right. And also, by the way, you need to present House Tyrell with a dowry that impresses them.
Oof, yeah.
Right? Like, sure. Here's Wyvern's Rest, I guess. Like how do you
We have all the cast,
impress?
but will
Yeah,
they impress them?
yeah. So yeah, that's why I was only down kind of the positives uh, of the various marriages, except for the reputation stuff that could have followed. Because some of those could have been better or worse.
Mhm.
For the record, I think the least. Well, okay, some of Adam's are weird because I cooked up extras for Adam, um, but some of them are just like, you
The-
married Gwyneth Ironwood, you're married. Like that was the only benefit. Like there's no other benefit here. It's just
yeah.
solving a problem,
Yeah,
right?
I think
Like,
we established early on that like
yeah.
she was better off being like married to someone else attached to House
Well,
Timerian.
yeah,
She was like more. We could get. It sounds really bad, but like she was more useful if
yeah.
Adam didn't marry her.
But yeah. So with some of the potential weddings, it was literally just like this person just solves the problem of somebody needs to get married. But most of them were offering some sort of bonus, um,
Mm-hmm.
of a dowry, or of, if it's a particularly you know famous and wealthy house, the ongoing house fortune stuff, or if it's a particularly close house, which is why House Toland gets you the bonus to House Fortune. It's because you guys are close enough that we're going to assume there's a lot of new trade going on, enough to bolster both, right? Whereas with House Royce, let's say, House Royce is a more powerful and wealthy house, but they're way up there, right? So it's not going to be the same bonus as a weaker house that's closer, right? So I tried to keep a lot of things in play and make each marriage option viable, um, if not ideal. Um, but yeah, so there's definitely mechanical
Yeah.
stuff there. Most of what's going to happen from the marriages is those mechanical benefits to house fortune rolls, and then the rep modifiers and the alliances that you're bringing. We're not going to be doing like a ton of your spouse is always with you type of stuff, because and the part of this is the balance of trying to keep the RPG feeling like an RPG where you guys can run off and go RPG stuff.
Yeah,
Is that okay? You're married. Balin Swan can stay home and keep an eye on things while Bela runs off and does stuff, right?
yeah,
And that's kind of our excuse for not having, constantly deteriorating house fortune rolls, because you left, you know, uh, somebody else in charge or whatever, that's no good at it. So some of it there is just kind of the hand wavium, um, that's going to perpetually let you guys keep adventuring. And it can also be stuff, depending on situations. It might be, hey, Willis is going to ride around the Reach and speak to his allies. So you guys go do adventure stuff. Willis is going to be AFK doing this, or, so I am going to try and often keep you and your spouses apart, in terms of actual
He
gameplay.
hates love.
I do. Yes,
You hear
that's
it here,
it.
ladies and gentlemen.
If I'm miserable in my marriage, everyone else has to be miserable in
Wow.
theirs. It was- uh, I said if, so she's not allowed to be mad at me.
Writing an
Yes.
anonymous letter here.
Yeah. Um, but yeah,
I
so
just
some
realized
of that
something.
is just going to be a matter of you know not doubling the size of the party all the time. But that's so the wedding arc is finalizing those alliances and drawing people into the fold. Um, and then we're probably gonna do like a pretty hefty downtime. like maybe a couple year jump. I'm still deciding, but maybe like year and a half, 2 years. Um, it might end up being a session of House Fortune rolls again, because I kind of do like doing that instead of just the time jump. Like let's see what you guys are up to during this, and um,
Yeah,
you know,
especially if we're like scenically doing stuff with the house, we would want to see some progress.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's probably it's not going to be just a time jump. It's going to be some House Fortune. I don't know if I want necessarily every month. It also depends on how long I decide to make the time jump. But yeah, so like once the weddings are done, and everybody has their, uh, their finalized stuff, we're going to be doing another bit of a fast forward, and then the campaign can start. Yeah,
Finally, our
yeah,
second year will be over. Our long national nightmare.
right.
So I just want to say
Uh,
real quick, we have like a shit ton of influence around the Sea of Dorn right now,
Yeah.
or will potentially here shortly.
Well, is this part of your plan to like become a pirate king?
I mean, I'm just going to say we own the Sea of Dorn more or less.
I wouldn't say we own it. We do have like a lot of support around it, I guess.
You're right.
Luke's like,
The
no, I pissed
mysterious
on it. I
Sea
pissed on it. It's mine
Wyvern
now.
will own it.
I think just,
Whoever that might be.
Yeah.
saying you own it might upset Uncle Doran.
But he's not on the Sea of Dorn. He's down below on the other side of the peninsula in Sunspear.
Still, just saying you own a thing might raise an eyebrow, shall we say?
I'm going to pee in it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Yeah, what's the
that
next?
handled the kind of marriage discussion. Did that scratch the itch that was going on talking marriages? That's kind of how we started that nominally.
Yeah, I think like Qatar was kind of asking for like a little bit of being caught up. Like we don't have to go very spoilery.
On
Yes.
the tourney.
So
Like
yes.
You guys take it.
All right. So since the tournament ended, we've done a lot of like house rolls for the different areas, territories that we're in charge of at the moment. So
Yeah, three
we
of
spent
us
some time
in
doing that. So Bela is at House Will with hubby Balin Swan. So our marriage, like it wasn't like this long drawn out like set piece in that we did like Adam's tournament. It sort of we just described it in like 20-30 minutes tops, I think. Just kind of the themes and such. So it wasn't like detailed or anything like that, which was fine.
Yeah, I don't have stuff to happen at every wedding. I don't want to fall into the tourney trap of, all right, Bela's wedding takes us 4 months, right? Like, so what I basically let each player do out of character was like, listen, do you want some stuff to happen at your wedding, or do you want to just describe how it goes? Because you could all basically have whatever wedding you want. So Erica and I did a little back and forth, and we let Erica kind of cook up how things went. But yeah, I don't want the wedding arc to. You can't come up with something for every single wedding, So
yeah.
So it didn't take us very long during the session to go through it, and we ended up we as in Bela and Balin ended up getting charged with taking care of House Will, and so we rode up there and we started to kind of take care of things. I won't go into too much detail, but the house was in pretty bad shape. The lands and the house holdings, and we've done actually a fairly good job with that so far.
And that was because House Will has become the responsibility of House Nymerian, and you guys are now, rather Lord Makar is the full-on warden of the Stoneway from north to south, from Will to Ironwood, is now House Nymerian's stuff. So he has not formally made Bela the Knight of Will. Uh, and again, out of character, partially that's because we knew that we were about to be traveling, and but yeah, like it is formally part of House Nymerian. So yeah, the entirety of the Stoneway is now under Nymerian
Does it
uh,
operate like a banner house,
stewardship, I guess. Or
basically?
yeah,
It's a banner house. Okay.
yes. So yeah, uh, so yeah, you guys are formally running all that.
Yeah.
What was Adam up to during all this?
Well, yeah, I was about to say like the reason we now control the whole Stoneway is because the other kind of points on the Stoneway, apart from Will and Nymerian, are Ironwood and Bittergrove, which is the seat of House Danet. And Adam basically said to Grandpa, like unlike the last, like before the closing feast, like I'm not going to be able to make a decision about my marriage this week. Sorry, Grandpa, you can't make an announcement about me. And then they did not talk about it quite conspicuously afterwards. So he got put in charge of Bittergrove. He's stewarding it temporarily. I'm not sure actually what if it's until Iris comes back or if it's until Iris has an heir. I literally don't know the time frame, but he's just been given it to look after. It was pretty fucked when he arrived because
Yeah, they're like,
Grandpa was,
and Marion put us in this mess, and Marion can get us out of it.
yeah, pretty much.
Actually, the ministers disagree on who caused the drought. I say.
I mean, like,
It was half the fault of the seven and half the fault of that river just
Of
changing
just-
direction.
Rivers,
Yeah.
just like the damn beavers, Dornish beavers.
but yeah, I mean, Adam's been quite like he's definitely not disguising or like, he's not making an effort to like conceal why it's fucked. But he's been working to improve it. I had some really bad rolls. I got 3 curses in a row. It was really stressful.
But you also had a lot of really good ones, and it's
Yeah, no, I did get some good ones, but the 3 curses in a row was just really upsetting. I'm okay now. I was just really stressed. At the time.
Yeah, in the moment,
it's
yeah.
definitely better
Yeah.
than when you found it, right?
Yes, it is now currently better off than when I found it. All its stats, as far as I can remember, are all. It's got at least 20 and everything now, which is getting towards being stable. Like the penalties I was at were a lot higher when I started, but like I finished some like agricultural buildings that had been kind of sitting unfinished for ages, and that helped quite a bit.
Yeah. So,
it's like
and that's
doing okay-ish.
and that is because the Lady Janet did in fact get married off at the end of the tourney. I just saw your note that you remembered the archery contest and not much after it. She picked Bryce Karen
She
of
did,
Night
yeah.
Song
All right, okay.
because
did
she's an
know.
actual lord. So she's off up there, and then Grandpa was like, as they were announcing the engagements, Grandfather was like, "Oh, and Adam's going to go be steward of Bittergrove," and in and out of character again. It's in kind of a flux state. It is still your banner house, but because she married outside of Dorne, she's kind of expected to go be the lady of Night Song. So it's in a little bit of a an in between. And I was like, let's just give Adam something to do. Keep him
Definitely.
busy, and
Sounds like
as long
really
as
far away either.
Yeah, especially because like he definitely he in character and I out of character needed more time to like not make a decision. Basically, the time pressure was a problem. But without that, like, it's also been like a good opportunity for him to be like doing something useful, which like
and it's what
it's
he's good
literally
at,
character building.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's one of the things that he's built to be good at,
Yeah,
mechanically. So
yeah, stewardship is a thing that like I kind of geared him towards from the start. If anything, I think I spread him a bit thin by like trying to have him have other skills rather than just focusing on that. But it's still
supposed to,
alright.
because you guys were making people, so you're not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically, yeah. Um, And yeah, so like he isn't betrothed to anyone at the moment. Like I noticed like 3 separate people asked about his situation basically, either about his marriage situation or about his actual love life. And like I will answer those. But yeah, like with the marriage situation, like he was like he spent like the kind of 8 months where we were doing house fortunes, he was just not thinking about it at all and just kind of doing his own thing and was kind of content with it. But we travelled up to Harrenhal recently, and he got to actually meet Lady Went and have an actual like talk with her about what her kind of where she was at and where he was at, and it helped him a lot. So like
And
he's
then
like, see,
Adam's like, yeah, I want to fuck that. He's like,
that was
turns out,
actual.
turns out I'm not gay. I just like them seasoned.
Oh God,
Is
Rusty.
we
Wow.
call that
That
Golden Girls
absolutely did
gay.
not happen. Do not listen to Rusty. That didn't happen. Because the actual exchange was like, yeah, like don't worry, I'm not like looking to bed you, but it's nothing personal. I'm just not interested in women. She was like, I think that would kill me anyway. So that was like, it was kind of nice actually. It was quite a sweet conversation. They get on quite well. And I think like now that they've had that conversation, and he knows what is and isn't going to be like insulting to her. Stuff like there were like deciding factors that he just wasn't prepared to make a decision based on the lack of information he had, and now he has that information. He's like genuinely rethinking his position there. Because like he sees a place where he could like do some more good, but there's a bit of conflict there because he's looking after Bittergrove, and he did promise Lady Iris that he would look after it. And like I'm under the impression that like he couldn't like do like 6 months in one place and 6 months in the other without one of them deteriorating.
Yeah.
So he kind of has to choose what to
Yeah,
do
I mean, you
about
can't.
that.
They're far enough away. You can't really actively steward both.
Exactly, they're too far
Neither
apart.
one will deteriorate while you're away. It's just you'll only be making rolls for one or the other. Is all. Oh, Ash, we lost sound. At least I
Sorry.
did. Oh,
Yeah,
there we go.
yeah. Sorry, it crapped out again. I lost maybe like 15 seconds there.
So yeah. So he's been keeping busy.
Yeah.
The,
So
the,
like it's largely now just like it. I think the only reason that didn't come up last session is I just didn't get an opportunity to talk with my siblings because he was probably going to talk with them about it first, and then stuff happened, so I didn't get to do that. But yeah, like stuff. I'll draw a discreet veil over the stuff. But yeah, so I think like he's probably going to relent before too long. I'm not kind of sure what happens after that, but like he basically like the main kind of consideration I as a player have got is like if he does like go to Stuart Harrenhal, who is he going to put in charge of Bittergrove in his absence? Because there's a kind of limited pool of people who have good enough stewardship to feel confident of doing it that will be like appropriate. Because like I initially actually thought like I mean like Luke could do it maybe, but like he's also about to go to Ghost Hill. Also, Lady Iris doesn't like him, so that's like probably not a good choice, even if he was good at it. So yeah, like there's going to be a bit of kind of probably in character discussion about who would be like an appropriate alternative, and that's going to inform his decision.
And I have, which means Grandpa Makar has some suggestions for it.
Yeah.
So it's not.
I expect they're also that's another thing I foresee that like Adam will start talking to Grandpa again probably quite soon. He's kind of he's had a few months to kind of like be annoyed with him, and he's kind of getting over it.
Stranger allow it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's actually just like a lack of. It's basically a miscommunication between them that has kind of gotten a bit out of hand. and I'm all about like sorting those things out eventually. I don't want them to not talk to Grandpa forever. Like I do want them to have some kind of resolution to that.
I'm sure
What
he'll be
else?
fine by the time you guys finish your tour of Westeros and make it.
Okay, so that doesn't sound ominous at all.
We've been expecting him to like have an accident like any
Every
day
hour.
now.
Because we're expecting him to die at the
You
feast.
you
'Cause everybody
describe
got-
him as being
everybody
feeble
got
and can
quiet
barely
once.
stand.
Like, you guys, I'm just saying, like, even
Yeah.
who was it? Aemon?
Who are you thinking about?
Like even Aemon Targaryen, like
Yeah.
there was a build-up before he died, and there
Yeah.
was a reason for it. You know, it was travel and stuff. And like it's just, you know, like he's not gonna. I promise, he's not gonna keel over for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
He's gonna keel over exactly when I want.
Well, it'll be for
Like
story
over,
reasons.
you know, over exactly.
Snatch your happiness from you.
I
Turn your gladness to ash in your mouth.
mean,
But
I'm
like
quite
not the way
fond of
Ash
it.
was.
That got confusing from it. Sorry, I was also a little bit distracted because my phone seemed to think I was asking it a question, so I had to tell it to shut up.
Your probably answers to Grandpa Makar.
No, first like I think because it thought I. Hold on, I need to cover its ears
No,
because
I
it
gotta
thought I
say-
said sorry and I didn't.
Like what would be
Um,
cool is if we could program our Alexa to answer to like Maester. Like Maester, tell me what packages are coming, right? Like that'd be pretty cool. Like
well, there was that time you sent me a book and it was addressed to Sir Ash, which was
In
very
fact, it could be
enjoyable.
at 3 o'clock, and the best way to poison a dragon is.
so the current arc was a lot of House Fortune stuff. Bela got married and then went, you know, a little north to Will, and was stewarding there as her honeymoon, chasing
Super creepy.
bandits with
Super
Balin. And then Lucaris was helping out a bit in Bitter Grove.
Like, no mention of Luke showing up and pulling the Bitter Grove situation out of the
Oh
nosedive.
shit! Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, the thing is, like Luke came down for like 3 months. 1 month, you
He helped.
absolutely saved me. You totally saved me. And the following months, it actually made things worse.
Yeah,
No, it was only one bad roll. I had
Alright, yeah.
2 excellent
Right.
help.
Yeah,
The last
two,
roll was like, meh.
yeah, 2 months you
Higher-
helped, and the third month you drank all the wine, so everything was fucked again.
higher isn't always better on House Fortune rolls. They tend
Yeah.
to be better. But yeah, 1 month, the bonus that Luke gave was enough to like bump it into decline. so,
I know I'm not welcome. I'll go visit my sister and her new husband instead.
Yeah. So that was going on. And then they began this kind of tour. We had about 9 months of staying at home. The assumption is there's ravens coming and going and plans being finalized and all that. Bela's wedding was about 6 months in. And then 4 months after that, which is where we're at now, they have traveled to the Riverlands. So we had some travel on the way, and they are now at the wedding of Sir Vannin, who was their childhood ward, and he is being wed to one of the daughters of Lord Walder Frey. So they're at a wedding at the Twins.
Which is totally fine and cool and normal.
It's been very lovely so far.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're going back to it's been suspiciously okay. Like, there's nothing's there hasn't even been like a snifter of something kicking off.
Hey.
Everyone's been
My
pleasant.
wedding went just fine. Suspiciously okay. Nothing weird happened. I got married. No one died. There was a little bit of jousting, and
Sir
It's
Balin,
fine.
he isn't a faceless man.
yeah, well, that we know of.
We had a nice sibling dance. It was cute.
So
And
yeah,
now,
last session
now we're twins where nothing bad happens.
they are hanging out.
in my experience, it seems to be like pretty good shit's happening.
And they did get to meet.
I'm glad you're finally getting your money's
or
worth
not
out
Tywin,
of,
Tyrion.
every copper coin.
And they hung out with Tyrion Lannister. They got to meet the Imp and drink with him and Uncle Orain Waters.
Yeah,
So
he's there for.
I do
Yeah,
like that
he's
there was a
subreason.
party table. There was specifically a party table.
I do love that he just turns up and he leaves as soon as just the same way he comes in. He just breathes it in.
just when he wants to be somewhere, he is. He's like the bastard of Driftmark carries terribly few responsibilities. Like he just got. He's like
I can see why Luke wants that job.
Well, I mean, I want Lord of Driftmark, not the Bastard of Driftmark.
yeah, bastard Driftmark is a whole different thing.
Okay, I suppose fair enough.
So
I don't want
yeah,
so much
that was
as I
kind of
want
pretty
a
much where
castle.
where
Yes.
end of last session was like we just finished the kind of like opening gathering essentially.
And again, we're being a little flexible with time. Coincidentally, you guys got there the day before the wedding, right? Like just because travel time in Westeros is so fuzzy, but we're just gonna be like, listen, we'll just say like they're the last to arrive and whatever. So for convenience's sake, we had one big day of role playing at a meal the day before, and then next session in 2 weeks will be wedding day. We'll see how things go.
So I have a fun subject. It's sort of like an
Okay.
Easter egg and something that, so the four siblings, we have a group DM chat session, and like a couple weeks ago we were chatting just about
There's
like
a no GM chat channel, by the way.
Right, that for the record, my wife tells me about sometimes, but
No.
never tells me what's being
This is
said.
fine.
okay.
She's just like,
Well, I'm
we're
gonna-
having so much fun without you. I'm like, cool, fine.
There's a fun
It's our-
Easter egg in here. We are sort of talking about just like things that might come up, and then we remembered with Nathan Lucas and that arc, and I wrote a raven to Balin, kind of as if like bringing this up, but not really wanting to make it sound like we're all of a sudden concerned. We basically realized we hadn't been paying any attention to the fallout of House Lucas after all this has gone down. And so we were a little bit like coming to the realization like, well, what if he's like planning something against us, and we're all now way away from home. So like this is my raven sent to my husband, Sir Balin. And I sort of the language is more like modern day, so like forgive me a little bit there, but it's kind of fun. So here we go. Hey Balin, sup? Quick question.
Apostrophe S-U-P.
Quick question. Nothing to be worried about. But how's Nathan Lucas getting on? He's not planning some vendetta against us or anything, is he? Again, nothing to worry about, I'm sure. Yeah. Oh, Harrenhal was really cool. You should check it out sometime. See you in a few months.
Last line.
By the way, maybe we can try that one thing that you wanted to do. Anyhow, miss you lots.
I
So-
love imports of it all.
So that was the raven that I kind of like wrote, like not seriously, but like in our sort of a fun, like, oh yeah, by the way, since House Lucas is really close geographically to House Swan, we thought maybe that that Balin might know some news or what was going on. So
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I got the impression that Nathan had kind of it had been a learning experience for him, and that he kind of knows better than to start more shit, so he's probably keeping his head down.
I don't know. He covered Eleanor's chest.
Yes, you did. I made a meme about it and everything.
The good news is that, remember, he's a Stormlander, and you guys are getting along pretty well with a lot of his neighbors that are from bigger houses, up to and including, the Lord of the Stormlands. So whatever it is he has plans, he's gonna be really sneaky about it.
Nathan is many things. Sneaky is not one of them. I don't think. You never struck me as a sneaky man. I bet you could surprise
Weird
us.
Jonathan was saying, how's that other Lucas doing up on the wall? He's still there?
I mean, we would probably have to write to the Lord Commander to ask, and he would probably be annoyed with us for like bothering him, basically.
I like to think I sent at least one letter to the wall to Jonathan was saying.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you could like send personal letters. There's some stuff that you could probably. They're
not allowed to not talk to people.
Yeah, it's not like they're totally cut off from society or anything. They're just far away.
I just don't know what all I would say to him other than like, "Hey, that war was crazy. I bet it's pretty chill up there."
I'm sorry about what happened. I've had a lot to drink.
Lots of wine and sex here in Dorne. How's the wall?
You guys got that up there?
Oh dear.
Oh my gosh.
That would just be mean. Though not beyond any of us, I don't think.
P.S. Here's a picture of my dick.
No. And also, it would be like a woodcut.
Sketch by the top maester.
Yeah, like remember our maester?
No angle. Make it look big.
I made him draw you this. Yeah.
Oh no! I feel bad. Like making the maester do it's just even worse.
That's their job, though.
And here's the question: was it young Maester Ferris or old Maester Aelston?
Yes.
Like which one?
Yeah.
Like,
If I'm going to offend bitter water, I might as well just keep piling the offense on.
it's fair.
Yeah. I think we could have. That could backfire on us if we weren't careful.
What, dick pics to the wall?
Oh no! No one. Oh god, no! Please don't. Just don't do it. But like, I meant taunting them in general would.
I genuinely would not taunt John Percent. I have spoken of his honor a number of times.
Yeah,
For the band.
Yeah, like it's like you are a bad guy, but not bad guy.
Well, I think Luke's opinion was the minute he sent his peasant levies home instead of face us, that told Luke
himself basically. Yeah. Yeah, that was like pretty right on of him.
So, do we have another question we want to tackle?
Yeah, it kind of ties in a little bit with stuff that you've already mentioned about us being at the Twins and who's there. That
all right, pass them. We'll do what else.
Are you gonna filibuster?
No.
We don't have we don't do that over here in civilization. So yeah,
How
it occurred
dare
to
you
me that
accurately describe my government?
it occurred to me that like Tyrion's presence at the Twins could suggest that House Lannister or some subset thereof has an interest in something or someone at the Twins, because they don't tend to send their own for nothing. So I'm curious about what people think that purpose might be, if he has one, which I think he might.
So this is the least interesting answer I will give my opinion on, because it's not that interesting. It's just Tyrion is bored and he goes places, and there's nothing behind it.
That was my first thought, but that's like a lot of out of character knowledge, and in character, Baylor Price doesn't know very much.
Well, I feel comfortable having a little bit of that because Luke has hung around King's Landing so long.
Oh yeah, that makes sense for you.
And even if I don't have any canonical like discussions with Tyrion, Tyrion comes and goes as he pleases is probably what people say.
Sure.
From Baylor's point of view, probably the thing that makes most sense to her is that there seems to be so many relatives and children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of Lord Walder Frey that there must be some way that House Lannister is intertwined in this somehow, and there's something political
Well,
that I don't know about that Tyrion
and
is here
though
for.
they are to a degree. One of the Frey spouses was a Lannister in the feast that we had
Yeah.
already.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Tyrion's aunt is a Frey by marriage.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys met her.
So
Well, at
Yeah,
least
it's,
some of you met her, you know. But
yeah. I think it's largely for me, like, nobody travels for trivial reasons in this setting, you know? Like, if you're going,
Generally, I think you're accurate.
yeah, if you're traveling that far, there's usually at least one reason. Usually more, like, people would normally try and do more than one thing. So, yeah, like, that was just a thing, like, I was kind of open to speculating about. But, like, thinking that he's just kind of, he's the one who's allowed to, like, roam about and doesn't have lots of responsibility and just wants to, like, go and get drunk on someone else's, like...
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
so-
say if Jamie showed up, that'd be a very different story.
sure. So probably like order of thoughts be a party, and then family ties, but probably third and maybe the most beneficial maybe to the Lannisters would be just that like Tyrion thought someone would be at the wedding that he needs to talk to for some reason. So he traveled there.
I think they're all valid reasons. Like, it's, like...
Do you have a thought?
Yeah, it just kind of reminds me a bit of, like, I mean, Stannis was invited to the tourney at Wyvern's Rest, but there was also, like... I mean, I was never told outright yes or no, but, like, I was convinced that he was also kind of there to, like, audit us, essentially, like for similar stuff, and, like, that,
I think that's a
like,
1,000%
he was kind of
possibility.
checking that there wasn't going to be any trouble, essentially, and I could totally see Tywin sending Tyrion off to, like, go be useful and check on this particular thing for the family, and it wouldn't necessarily be anything very important, but it's a thing that he's not prepared to, like, send Jaime to do, for example.
And it's something that Tyrion could.
He's actually got, like, an important job.
Since something Tyrion could do, sort of in his personality, right? Where there's
Just
a big
show up at a party.
show up.
And get intel.
It's completely plausible, and
Like, maintaining
think
good relations.
yeah,
I think the added character information there is in the books. Tywin doesn't really like put any faith or trust in Tyrion. I think that's the thing we wouldn't know. Yeah, I think it's possible that Tyrion may have got kind of dust off the couch to go to a party just to see what's going on. This info.
I mean,
I
Oren
think
Waters
he's
is
here
there,
for the same reason
right?
that Oren is. Well, that's it. Well, I think he's here for the same reason Oren is here. Is there was a party. He knew somebody at the party, and he showed up. But that's the least interesting possible answer to that.
That's enough. And I mean, honestly, to be honest, like, as soon as Adam gets the opportunity, he'll probably just ask him.
Oh,
Like, for someone who's, like, quite good at this kind of sort of social subterfuge, Adam actually just prefers to be direct and just ask a question, so he'll probably just ask him at some point.
I think there's also a metagame reason we're overlooking. It could be that someone who sat on the Iron Throne wanted to give a boon to Tyrion, and so now Tyrion's showing up because someone
Yeah!
has the Iron
We
Throne.
haven't run into Tyrion so far. Into the colorful character.
Yeah, it could, because Brienne turning up with a royal boon, so it could.
Yeah.
That's a really good shout. Actually, I hadn't thought about that.
But it doesn't mean that like that's not one aspect of it, right? Like things can
Yeah,
have
it could be
multiple
multiple things.
purposes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of speculate on it.
And so, Rusty, what's the right answer?
Yeah, Russ, what's the right answer? Tell us all enemies and spies.
You don't have to tell us, it's fine.
It could be.
Why did you say that? You had to until you said that.
It could be that having a Lannister show up is a good way to flatter Walder Frey, who very much wants to be taken seriously as a prominent and wealthy lord. It could be that Tyrion heard there'd be free food and Aunt Jenna is hanging out, so like, or Aunt Jenna, fuck. Anyways, would be hanging out, so like, let's go. It could be that Tyrion has someone he wants to talk to, or something he wants to talk about. It could be that Tywin has somebody he wants Lannisters to pay attention to, and for
Yeah.
some reason trusted it with Tyrion. It could be a boon from a viewer. It could be that I just haven't gotten a role play as Tyrion Lannister yet, and that was gonna be fun. Could be that Tyrion was just like out on a boat with Uncle Orain, and like just ended up they just both ended up coming here. Like who knows? But yeah, there are lots of potential reasons, but I don't think the least of them is that from what we've seen, um, both Jamie and Tyrion do kind of like that ant. Uh, and Cersei has never said anything about her that I recall, which means she's probably pretty okay. Like Cersei doesn't also like her, right? Which is it's a warning sign if Cersei thinks well of somebody, um, and stuff. But like
It's a very short list of people.
yeah. Um, but
Jamie, the end.
well, no, she likes her kids because they're extensions of her. Narcissists are like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's essentially my theory of like why why she's with Jamie, because it's the closest thing she can get to having sex with herself.
Yes. She could fuck herself and then make little clones of herself and then be proud of how high up the clones are. And yeah. But anyways, the ant seems pretty cool. The scenes that she's been in the book. And this is also close to the Westerlands, right? And what we see of the Westerlands and the Riverlands in the show and in the books is not great because they're at war, and the Riverlands are kind of where that war's being fought, right? And it's all very, very bad, right? For the Riverlands, rather infamously so. But the Riverlands and the Westerlands have a pretty long border. They share common enemies with the Iron Islanders, and stuff like that. So I'm like, they could just be, they've got to have some kind of civil relations sometimes. So there's that too.
Yeah, that's
so
like
yeah.
speaking of the proximity of the Riverlands and the Westerlands, and I'm not asking for any spoilers, but is there a shred of possibility that we might be able to swing by this tourney in Lannisport before we go to Highgarden?
I mean, it just seemed really coincidental that there's a big tourney in Lannisport that's on your way to Highgarden while you guys are traveling to Highgarden.
I had a wild hope.
Yes. It is my plan for a very brief foray to that tourney to do a little role-playing stuff if you guys want to.
Cool.
If you guys choose not to, you can ride straight to Highgarden and do wedding stuff. But yeah, it's not there by accident. So
I did think
it
it was kind of conspicuous that way, and I was like,
Yeah, it will not be a 6-month tourney arc type of thing. It will be, okay, everybody pick like one thing to do. All right, you want to talk to Kevin Lannister about establishing trade. You want to go do some jousting. You want to go whoring with Tyrion because you're not married yet. Right, like it's gonna be kind of a
Hold on. Let me send a raven to my fiance. Just check off. Let her know what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want to make assumptions about what your relationship is like, but
but yeah, you guys are definitely traveling right down I think it's the River Road and then the Gold Road, I want to say.
It's the
But
road
like
road.
you're doing that big road that's on the West Coast, right?
Yeah, I think it's the Rose Road, but my maps are in the other room, so I can't consult them.
I think the Rose Road is Highgarden to King's Landing. I think that's the cross continent one. I think the one down the coast is different. But anyways, you guys are taking that big road, and again, you'll be stopping places, off screen. You're stopping and staying with lords.
The
and
River
stuff
Road.
most of
It's
the
River
time.
Road.
River Road.
Is it okay?
Thanks.
So you'll be stopping and visiting with lords and stuff. You'll probably spend an extra day with House Crakehall by his insistence, right? Because the Strongboar's gotten to kind of like you
Oh,
guys a little, and
and
so you'll hang out and eat some extra food or
I was
whatever.
gonna say, and you just know that he's gonna have the good scran. Definitely.
Uh, so yeah, it'll be again, off screen they'll be visiting with other nobles because you're kind of expected to do that. It's not quite a law or anything. It's just good manners to kind of announce yourself and make it clear, like, hey, I'm not here to start any shit. I'm traveling through,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
also, you know,
we're not speaking
offering,
about.
yeah, and offering hospitality is another way to kind of show off your wealth a little, you know, and
It's also just like
that sort of thing.
if like when you're traveling that far, it's a good way to make use of the time because you can just like touch
Yeah.
base with your allies all the way
Well,
without having to be a dedicated
Yeah,
individual visit.
and these people don't, they don't have Discord, right? Like they don't get to really socialize with their peers very often
Yeah.
unless everybody goes to King's Landing or whatever. So, um,
Plus travelers bring news and stuff as you're putting
yeah,
out, and
and there's not a like direct rivalry between Dorne and the Westerlands, right? You guys have neighbors that are in the way of that, so most people are fairly friendly, and like whatever. So yeah, you'll be stopping along the way, and all that. But yeah, I figured we'd do some stuff at Lannisport, give people a chance to, you know, just kind of hang out and, like I said, kind of pick a thing that each
Yeah.
of you does, and we'll, roll some dice or whatever. And some of
Definitely want to
this
try.
is
Definitely want to try and make money.
yeah, and some of this is also wanting to offer opportunities to kind of role play stuff that could influence House Fortune rolls, right? Because that doesn't necessarily have to be just stuff that you have bought with the wealth attribute that offers permanent House Fortune modifiers, right? Like, you're getting a good relationship with a powerful and wealthy house. Here you go. If a mine is worth +5 House Fortune, so a good trade with a neighbor is good for like +2, +3, right? Like I feel like there's room to do that, in a way that shows how interconnected these houses should be, and stuff like that. So,
I
um,
mean, we could.
yeah.
I mean, we could also like do worse than like try to get some kind of rapport with Kevin Lannister.
I was partially picking it because Tywin's not gonna go. He doesn't care.
Of
He's
course
gonna
not.
he's gonna stay in Castle Rock. But also, like, just out of character, I did have Kevin Lannister send that note to Bela, for Erica's Christmas
Exactly.
present.
He's
So
already your friend.
we need them to meet so they can hit it off. But also, like, Kevin Lannister's he's not a bad dude. Like, he's
Seems to be
another
okay.
example of somebody that's on like the wrong side, and somebody that's he's a solid like BC lister,
there's only
right?
3 bad Lannisters:
Like they just happen to be like really
Tywin,
important.
Cersei, Joffrey.
Yeah. Um,
Joffrey's
but
not a Lannister though. Oh no, wait. Yeah,
He's
never mind.
1% a Lannister. He's on Baratheon.
Not officially.
Yeah.
Spoilers for the 25-year-old novel.
Yeah, and the
Right.
show that ended several years ago now.
But remember, when he's king, he does still have the Lannister and the the Lannister line and the Baratheon stay. So, but
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, like Kevin, and he's also fairly competent, right? He's not amazing, which is why Tywin gets the credit, for so much stuff. But like being the right hand man of somebody that's really good at that sort of thing is like you've got to be able to carry out Tywin Lannister's orders, right? And like and you've got to do the logistics for a Westerlands army, and like a lot of important shit. So like, I think Kevin Lannister, um, he certainly isn't a favorite of mine the way like Robar Royce and Garland Tyrell and some of the other C-listers that I've tried to highlight are. But I do think just like Kevin Lannister's like the yeoman of House Lannister, right? He always strikes me as just like the reliable one in the Lannisterian fold. And I imagine that that's the case when they're not at like the War of Five Kings, right? Like it seems like he also is the one that kind of just, you know, does get shit done.
That's what he's
So I
supposed
thought,
to do.
yeah, so I thought it'd be cool to, introduce him a bit, and let you guys maybe hang out a little, and you know, uh, remember also that Lannisport is one of the preeminent trading towns. So if there's any other like last minute gear you guys want, or if you want to get some shit gilded, right? Like you could do a lot worse than than Lannisport.
Oh.
I do maybe
So
want some stuff modified.
yeah,
Like,
so
seriously,
whatever.
like Adam's heart fluttering there. Like I can get things coated in gold.
Yeah. So yeah, and then you'll be making your way south. Um, Red Lake is a little too far out of the way. You're not going to be staying with Mary and Parman, but they are going to be at the wedding. But yeah, Red Lake is pretty far off the road there.
You'll get to see
Stopping
what you're
by
missing out on.
Mary's for a little while.
But yeah,
Mary
so-
would fucking kill me, I think, if I stopped there. So we're just gonna
Say
skip
goodbye
that.
to me, Luke. No, wait, that's Martin.
she's like, anyways, I'm gonna go fuck your sister. See ya.
Probably, yeah.
She's not married yet, neither am I, and we're just very good friends. Ask a maester. We out, right? Girls could get away with that back in the day.
I actually
Good
thought,
cat.
like, way back at King's Landing, I actually thought that she and Bela were gonna, like, get together. If briefly.
Yeah,
Did you
the
see-
missed
yeah,
opportunity.
Yeah, the road not travelled and all that.
So yeah.
And Saturn, I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood.
So,
What's the next question? We got something from
Yeah.
Bad Nug? Are we
Yes.
into Bad Nugs yet? Okay.
yes, we're into
So
bad nugs now. Like, I think I already, like, he asked basically if Adam was ever going to get married or not, and I answered that already. So, his other question was, so when/if the War of Five Kings kicks off, who do you think House Nymerian would side with? And I think that, like, there's scope for us to say, like, what House Nymerian would do and what individual player characters would do.
Let's go with if the War of Five Kings kicked off the way it does in the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise it'd be too
because, like-
open-ended.
That's all we can
Yeah.
really speculate on.
Right, because like spoiler, there is going to be future conflicts, but they're going to be a little different in this world.
Yeah.
But let's stick with John Aaron dies, Ned Stark becomes Hand of the King, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
The heir isn't here, so let's go with what Bela would suggest to
So let's go
grandfather
over
Rhaegar or
the
whatever.
options because I'm having a memory fart. So
So this hypothetical version will kick off just like it does in the books. Is that
'Cause-
correct
Yeah.
to the question?
Officially,
there's
Dorne
Stannis neutral. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you that. So, like, we're going to pretend that as a house, you can choose to side with somebody, right? Because officially, Dorne's neutral. But fairly quickly, the situation becomes Joffrey, who is supposedly the lawful king, as the son of Robert Baratheon, right? Stannis, who is spreading that Joffrey is a child of incest and a bastard, and as such, as the younger brother of Robert, Stannis is the rightful king. Then you've got Renly,
Is Stannis the younger brother of Robert or the older brother of Robert?
Older.
younger, or Robert's
Stannis-
oldest.
Oh,
I always
right.
thought Stannis was oldest.
I
but-
always
no.
thought Stannis was the oldest.
No,
Oh,
that's why. Yeah, that's why Robert was Lord of the Stormlands, and partially I think this is a casting thing, right? And that's.
The TV show definitely said Stannis was the oldest. So maybe that's why I'm misremembering.
He's older than Renly. Definitely. But
He acts older than both of them as well. He's
right,
like,
and again the
Wow, that's why
casting
nobody likes him.
was
Okay.
But yeah, Stannis is the second born son.
Okay.
He comes off as a lot older.
That makes more sense. I think the show actually said it was the other way around, or implied it though.
Really? Okay.
And then just Robert was the king because he was the guy fighting. But yeah.
Yeah. No. So yeah, Robert is oldest, then Stannis, then Renly. So
Okay.
then Renly throws his hat in the ring, and he's got the backing of the Reach and a good chunk of the Stormlands.
He's better liked than Stannis, so
Yeah, and he just has
yeah.
he has more people, he has more fans, and all that. He has no like legal claim to say, except his legal claim is I've got a bigger army. That's how Robert did this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's his response is Robert had the same claim Robert had.
Yeah. I think Olenna says about him that like he rode well and dressed well and fought well, and he thought that qualified him to be king, basically.
And depending on your interpretation of stuff, also House Tyrell was pressuring him instead of supporting him, depending on some iterations, because they kind of just wanted that, But yeah, so you've got Renly, Stannis, Joffrey, the King of the North,
Robb Stark.
Robb, and then the King of the Iron Islands.
Yeah,
Although to be clear,
is
Robb is fighting more for independence and to take the Iron Throne.
Yeah, I always forget if it was Balin or Euron Greyjoy that decided they wanted to do kingly stuff.
I think Balin's the one that declared himself king again.
All right.
Then...
So I guess from Balin's perspective,
We know she likes Balons.
So someone has the legal claim to the throne once the king dies. Like there is the succession, which would go to
Joffrey,
which would be Joffrey. However, if there's claims of Joffrey not being an actual blood relative of the king, that throws everything into question.
Which could be why Stannis is lying about it.
Yes.
Right? Is the Lannisterian defense is like, of course Stannis is going to say that. He wants to be king,
Again, to lie requires some spark of life and enjoyment and things.
Imagination.
See none of that with Stannis. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like he doesn't seem like the person that would lie about
yeah.
something so serious.
But it's
not
an easy Lannister defense, right? He has every motive to lie.
Yeah. Also, he's not the only one that alleges the incest and non-heir.
Yes,
true.
Joffrey.
People get behind that.
It's true. That is famously what did Stark. He sent the letters out and then was killed.
But remember that even should the letter have not been burned or whatever, the letter does not say, in the books, the letter wasn't like, Joffrey's a bastard. It's just, the seed is strong. Like, that was all Jon Arryn sent out.
This
so
is
it's
why you
not like
always leave a note.
Yeah, it's not like there's any
why
sort of
he always leaves a note.
documentation or anything that proves either way.
All right, so I think the biggest hinge is going to be whether or not Bela will believe those rumors and the claim of Stannis. If she believes that Joffrey is not an heir, then the only question is whether to side with Stannis or Renly, brothers of the king. Renly is liked in the Stormlands and has other people that like him as well. Stannis would be the technical heir at that point. But if it looks like Renly has a better odds, he seemed to get along well. Aside from the spat with our cousin, he seemed a little bit more.
Technically, that wasn't Renly. That was Renly's good friend only.
Yeah, I've had a long day of driving. Yes, thank you.
Loras Tyrell. But it was Renly's boyfriend. So
Renly got along well enough in our home. So I think there's reason to think that backing him would be the smarter play. And then the other two, the king in the north and the other person,
Yeah, King of
whoever,
the Islands, whatever. Like
I
that's
don't
not.
see any reason to even consider
But-
backing them instead of
Yeah,
a
but keep in mind
Baratheon.
they're also fighting for independence, not the Iron Throne.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not a
They're
five-way
just-
fight for the Iron Throne.
Yeah,
It's just
they're
a
just
five-way
listed
fight.
because it's the melee.
Like
Yeah,
we want
the
out
other
of
thing
all
that-
of this.
Yeah, the other
Yeah,
thing
they're
to
not
keep in mind
these guys.
is what if, what you guys are gathered in Grandfather Makar's solar, and everybody lays out everyone that's an option, and then what happens if Balin Swan says, "So of course, we back my liege lord Renly Baratheon," and then what
Yeah.
happens if you know what I mean? Like because there's
Yeah, I know.
at
well,
what point does
not,
that
not just that, but with our connection to Lady Olenna, like
Yeah,
if
we're like
our allies would be
directions.
backing Renly if things were the same way they are in the.
And the other
they
question
have
is,
in the book.
what would Uncle Doran lean towards?
Yeah, and the other, but what if instead Sir Balin Swan says, "Well, you know, Stannis is the lawful heir if Joffrey is a bastard, right?" And like, what happens? Because it is a civil war, right? It's
Mhm.
not, not all the Stormlands fall in line, one way or the other. There's a few holdouts uh, that go with Stannis early on, very few. But then they all jump ship to Stannis after Renly's death. But yeah, it's like, you also have to think about your allies, or what happens if Balin or whoever, just like any of your spouses or whatnot, just says, "Well, Joffrey's the lawful heir." Right?
Yeah, it's
well,
like,
shit,
yeah, like
now
all
what does our house do?
exactly.
Right?
So like the question is either you think Joffrey's the heir and that's the end of the discussion, or things get really complicated and you can talk for a long time about what to do, right? So like
yeah,
that first question is really important. Do you think that
is
Joffrey is
is
the heir?
is Joffrey king? Yes, no, and if not, no, then you bust out the arguments for either Baratheon. So yeah, it's definitely
So I've given this a lot of thought in character. Well, in and out of character.
Okay.
My thought is basically the Baratheons are not legitimate rulers of the Seven Kingdoms.
Here we
The Seven
go.
Right.
Kingdoms
See, there's the
are
other
held-
answer, right?
Hold on, let me finish my thought. The Seven Kingdoms are held together only through the personality of Robert Baratheon and the person of the throne. Like only through his generosity, his ignoring people who had previously betrayed him and forgiving them, and his spinning coin holds Seven Kingdoms together. Robert dies, like there's no way another Baratheon holds a kingdom. That's kind of Luke's thought in character as well. Like
even Renly, who's as likable as Robert, with the coin of Highgarden instead of Lannisport. Like, isn't that, if the argument is the money of Casterly Rock and the charisma of Robert Baratheon, then why not the money of Old Town and Highgarden and the charisma of Renly Baratheon?
yeah, I would be very tempted
Right?
to
Like,
back.
that's the-
I would be tempted to back Renly in those cases, but I don't 100% know if I would. For one, he's still the brother of the usurper. There's still a lot of hard feelings there, but Renly has the closest chance to holding the Seven Kingdoms together the same way Robert does.
I see where you're coming from.
Now, in the books, he gets his ass assassinated by a shadow, and
This is just
that
bad
possibility
luck.
fucking vanishes.
Just super bad luck to just get assassinated by a shadow, right? Like,
So unlucky, and we don't even know where.
how would you plan for that? Like, what?
Both
What are the odds?
well, it's just magic is it's Starks and Grumpkins. It's fake. Until it kills you. But in and out of character, Renly has the best chance of holding something together the same way Robert does. But
There's a lot of variables.
I think in character, I would be looking to Grandpa Makar, and I'd be looking to Uncle Dor and being like, "What's the move?"
I mean, to
Because if
me,
there's a chance to step up, this sounds like it.
I mean, Uncle Doran is like very likely to go. We're staying out of this. It's not
Well,
our.
Uncle Doran, his
the other thing is,
famously in character, he moves slowly, but
I think, for my part, Grandfather Makar's thoughts would be, we are going to back Renly because of our proximity to the Stormlands. We will do what Dorn doesn't want to do, and I'll talk to my nephew about it, and the prince will understand. And then Dornishmen that want to can like funnel up through the Stoneway to help the Stormlands, right? In exchange for the Stormlands and the Reach owing them favors, which isn't a bad thing. You know, they're traditional enemies, and then Dorn can be all fucking smug, like, you've only got the throne because those Dornish spearmen, right, or whatever. I think that would be the likeliest that Grandpa Makar would want, would be
That would make
because of our strong ties, especially if it happens 6 months from now,
right.
after Rhaena's married to Willis, right? Because now suddenly, like, we're literally in bed with the Stormlands and the Reach. And if anyone's gonna win this war, we want it to be our allies.
Yeah.
Whether we care about the legality or not, whether we want to say this justifies Renly's claim or not,
I would say
think
the
that's what
legality
it
will
comes down
not
to.
matter to Lucaris at this point because
Yeah.
Robert wasn't a legal heir.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
who the fuck cares what happens next?
Yeah, I was kind of interested in your perspective of that because you have kind of been the one who has brought up the most that, like,
Doing a treason.
that Robert's like a usurper, and that, like, it's always kind of come across to me as like we should be angling to get on there. So I was interested in kind of whether you had any plans beyond I want that to happen.
Well, right now we need more allies. If the war of Five Kings happened right now, I think we'd be forced to side with Renly, similar to what Rusty said. And if that was Grandpa Makar's plan, that's what we would do. We are not strong enough yet to be like, nah, fuck it, we're also in the ring. Especially with our close connections to the Stormwind and the Reach. But as far as just general goes, yeah, I mean, these guys are legit because they had the bigger army and they won the right fights in the last war. And there's always a next war.
That is, yeah, that's definitely fair.
The other part is, yeah, so it's that, but it's also the fact that, like I mentioned, with like Robert and potentially with Renly in the future, while they are illegitimate in Lucaris's eyes, from just a general perspective, they have held the kingdom together.
As a reminder, like, don't forget that they've got as much Targaryen blood as you guys do.
Yeah, they have this the same thing we have.
Like the Baratheons are, you know, Targaryen.
Yeah. Robert's grandmother was Targaryen, I believe.
Yeah, and your grandmother wasn't, right? Like, you guys go into the greats for you to have full-on Targaryen. Like, they're, you know,
it is definitely a little unfair in Lucaris's mind, his thought process. But yeah, I'm just
sure. I just wanted to remind you that they're not, you know, like the Baratheon and
the original
Targaryen
Baratheon, what was potentially a bastard brother of Aegon the Conqueror, right?
Well, but that's going all the way back, yes. But it's just like literally like their grandma, like you know, Robert Stannis and Renly's grandmother was a Targaryen. Rael, I think. Rael. No, it's like, I gotta look it up now. It's Ray something.
And that's the loose justification they use when they put Robert on the throne.
Well, and it's not even particularly loose. It's
Well,
you know,
it's
they
accurate,
were
but
the
yeah.
next blood claimant. You know,
I do feel it was an afterthought. That's just my interpretation of the text. Was like, oh shit.
it was
his grandma was Targaryen.
what it
Well,
what it
I
largely was.
that he had like the charisma to like get the people together to get the shit done. Basically, is that what you mean?
What it largely was in universe. Uh, John Aaron was really kind of the leader of the rebellion. Robert won the battles, of course, but John Aaron was Robert's mentor
Right.
and provided the veil, and it was John Aaron's connections that brought in their other allies. So there was initially talk of John Aaron, but like they were like, all right, like fucking first we need to get rid of this motherfucker. Like we need to we need to kill Eris, and then we'll figure it out. So like the dust settled, and what was John Aaron's rebellion basically then went, all right, listen, who was your grandma again? All right, cool, right? And then they're like, all right,
Yeah.
we'll make Robert king. Um, it was basically what happened. Uh, so
Because
um,
I don't think Robert particularly wanted to king, really.
Robert wanted to drink and fuck. Like, I don't think he
Yeah.
cared about being king.
Like that it's a thing that that being king affords you, but is not it's not the main attraction.
well, and that's where the Lannisters come in also, is because then everyone just goes like, all right, the Targaryen dynasty is no more if we want, like, but if we all just say the Iron Throne is completely up for grabs, then you get the War of the Seven Kings a generation earlier. And here's, people were tired of fighting, and they were like, all right, listen, look, like, make Cersei queen, and we'll bankroll you, and we'll have that stability, And
Yeah.
the fig leaf is the fact that you guys are actually next in line by blood. You guys have the biggest dose of Targaryen by percentage or whatever. It was Raelle, Rhaelle. So I'm assuming it's pronounced Raelle. But yeah, she was Robert's grandmother. She was one of the daughters of Egg from Duncan Egg.
Yeah.
That Aegon. She's one of his kids. But so yeah, like just in terms of, and again, this is not saying Lucerys is wrong to feel the way he does. It's just a reminder to the Lucerys that like actually legally, the current generation of Baratheons are as Targaryen as you guys are.
That
just
fig
don't
leaf of
look
an excuse
it,
was not wrong. It was not manufactured. It was real.
They just also don't look it, right? Like, because it's one of the things is Baratheons have a distinctive look, but like Oris is as Targaryen as you guys.
That's a weird thought.
Like
it doesn't feel that way, but yeah, that's very accurate.
Robert and Stannis and Renly are a hair more Targaryen than you guys, but like go down to Oris and like you're as Targaryen. So, and then
But the other part is Lucerys doesn't have like a cap on what he thinks he can, what he believes he can achieve.
Sure, yeah. It wasn't, like I said, I wasn't trying to,
I
should know better. It was just a reminder.
Know your fucking place.
That
maybe what Stannis thinks, but yeah. So you combine that with the general chaos. Yeah, Luther's the reason like we can't fucking turn out on top, other than literal logistics and military reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, also like there's also. I mean, it's not ideal, but there's no reason you can't switch sides. Like in the rebellion, there was at least one house that started off on one side and switched to the other. Like,
oh yeah, there were a bunch.
Well, a little bit. Luke has bought into the whole, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms kind of thing. So he doesn't feel proper switching sides and betraying people.
Well, there's. I guess there's things about like. It's I guess where you fall morally of like, is your loyalty a matter of preference or are there, because there's multiple sets of conflicting, potentially conflicting rules that a knight.
So let's use the example like everyone throws him behind Renly. Luke would probably reluctantly follow that. But if Renly is suddenly murdered by a shadow, all fucking bets are off, baby.
Well, I mean, this is where like my thoughts slash Adam's kind of position would be that like none of that could really happen in a vacuum. Like I actually think I think broadly he would fall into a kind of similar vein of like Renly's like you say, like the best candidate to like bring about stability as quickly as possible, but he would
So
be combining that with like putting a lot of effort into persuading Stannis that that's the best course of action as well, to try and like at least get him to not work against it, and basically,
see how you react.
and probably try to broker some kind of agreement that like one of you has to support the other,
Yeah.
and like the other one can be like hand of the king or something. We want you two working together, not against, because if they're working against each other, they're splitting a bunch of support. So I think Adam's action that way would be to try and like consolidate them into one
I
supportive
think
unit.
the best outcome for the realm would be, and is, you know, and certainly again, Grandpa Makar wants to back the Stormlands, partially just out of pragmatism, right? Like we've got ties with them, but also we're their near neighbors, and
Oh,
if
yeah,
we
yeah.
did decide to back Stannis, or if we decided to back Joffrey for that matter, all of our enemies are between us and our allies.
Right.
Yeah.
So what the fuck do we do, right? So like I think the best outcome. Yeah.
So Ash, can I propose a scenario to you and see how you might react to it in around the character? So let's say we back Renly, and everything's going good, and Renly fucking dies, and the rumors are one of his guards killed him, whatever, and Brian shows up on our doorstep. A shadow killed him. And she goes, Stannis has that red woman with her, with him.
Which, for the record, the red woman doesn't exist in our timeline, but go ahead. But yeah, like, what would you do if Brienne showed up with that?
Are we like, are you like, oh, you're fucking crazy, get the fuck out of here?
I don't think Adam would say that. I think Adam would hear her out at the very least, and he's fairly amenable to weird shit. So I think he's more likely than most to go, all right, I'm prepared to, like...
let's say whatever the results are, you believe her. And you believe Stannis used her magic to kill Renly too.
At the very least, Adam wouldn't dismiss it out of hand. He would entertain what evidence was being presented.
Yeah, I mean, I admit it'd be hard to believe, but
totally. But I'm just saying, like, Adam wouldn't definitely go, no, that's definitely not true, without at least hearing her out, basically. And if he was dubious about it after he'd heard her out, he'd probably try to investigate as best he could.
Dive into some books.
Obviously, that's a really difficult thing to do in this situation.
Yeah.
But the question becomes, if Renly is dead, we then throw our backing behind Stannis by default. But now we have this, like, oh, he did it, you know.
It would be a bit of a thing, yeah, and it's a thing that I don't think I can really predict for. Like, the overarching thing with Adam would be, we need to tread really fucking carefully, and he'd be all about...
That would definitely be the case.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, you think it doesn't have to be said, but it kind of does. Yeah, I think he would be very much like, he would be cautioning against taking rash action. Obviously, sometimes you just have to make a decision in the moment, but there'd be it's such a shitstorm that I think Adam would have it would not be able to, like, he's also just not great at making snap decisions, as we've noticed. Also, also depending on the next kind of this arc that we're in just now, he could be like up at Harrenhal in the Riverlands, like totally isolated from everybody. So that, and it's also not depending on how much work he can get done on it, it might still be really vulnerable. So he'd be in a really precarious position if that war kicked off.
I guess the question is,
He'd be like trying to keep Tywin Lannister from steamrollering into his castle.
yeah. I guess the question would be, at that point, you don't immediately throw your sword behind Stannis. You hold off, or do you?
I don't think he would hold off indefinitely. He'd know he would need to make a decision, but he'd probably not make that decision without talking to some people he trusts. Is what I would
Okay.
that's all I can really say for certain, is that he wouldn't just leap behind somebody.
Yeah, you're sort of in a position where you don't really have a lot of good choices, right? Like, you can't really go back and then support Joffrey and say, "Oh, we." I know we said that we didn't believe that Joffrey was the king, but now that Renly has died, we've come to realize that Joffrey really is the king. We're sorry. We're now ready to fight on your side.
Which is literally what happens with several prominent houses in the books, but a lot of other shit goes wrong first. And by the time they do, the Lannisters are like, listen, we just need people, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was also just like during the rebellion, like I said, multiple houses fought initially for King Aerys and then switched sides and got pardoned by Jon Arryn, including House Corbray. They fought for the Targaryens originally and then switched sides.
Oh, it is well known in character that's what they did. Bad guys. Bad guys.
I think the best possible outcome for House Nymeria, as they currently stand, or as they would stand in like 6 months' time, would be siding with Renly. Renly and Stannis duke it out. Stannis brings his navy down into Shipbreaker Bay, right? And they pick a spot in the Stormlands to fight. Stannis loses and takes the Black. I think like that would be the best outcome for the realm. Would be saying, look, Stannis, we're either going to execute you, or you can still be of use, and we can send you to the wall.
Mysterious and Sea Wyvern,
and
whoever
sending him
pirate army,
and sending him to the wall removes him from being the older brother of Renly, which then means Renly has the legitimate blood claim. Conveniently enough, after Stannis' unfortunate accident and decision to go to the wall on his own, I think that would be the quickest potential way to solidify the Reach Stormland thing. And then you've got King's Landing owned, basically, because if you've got the Crown Lands up north, Stannis' territory, and you've got the Stormlands, then you blockade like Blackwater Bay, and you've cut off King's Landing from reinforcements, and then you just need one good fight to take the Gold Road, and you've cut them off from getting food and stuff from the Westerlands, and like the thing could be over fairly quickly-ish, right? Like would be the theory, but it would still be a mess, and I think that alliance would end up probably letting Robb keep the North.
I can see that.
Which then complicates things, because hey, maybe Dorne wants to be independent now too. And what do you guys do if Uncle Doran says Dorne should be independent, but you've now backed the Reach and Stormlands alliance and put somebody on the throne? Do you go to war against the 5 kingdoms, or do you because what happens to the Stoneway?
Dorne.
I don't want to make that decision.
Right? Like, so things still can be complicated.
Totally. And that I'm not going to pretend to have a solution. And also I wouldn't assume that any of the stuff that Adam would try to make it less of a mess would necessarily work, because but like I would like to think that our sort of bonds of allyship and family would at least let us try to steer things a little bit. That I would like to think that like we're at a kind of level of strength now where we're not going to just be sort of swept away on the winds of history and like not have any influence, because I think we definitely could.
Yeah.
It's just there's a couple of big asks that we would need to, like, at the very least put a lot of effort into and be clever.
Because then if not, do you go to war against Barrack? And
Yeah.
again, and do you go to war against House Tyrell
Yeah, I don't think any of them
and
want to
fight
fight
against
ourselves and family.
Garland and Loras and them? And do you,
Oh, we
you
definitely
know,
want to fight Loras.
but
Sorry, that
yeah,
was
so it's and partially this is all because
I
Seven
Elliot
Kingdoms.
and she said we definitely do go to war against House Tyrell.
you just want to fight Loras,
Even
and that's fair enough. Like,
I will fight Laura. Yes.
and it's partially because Westeros is a setting designed to fall apart.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's the same as
Yeah.
a lot of fantasy settings for war games and stuff. They're designed for nonstop conflict, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the case here. It's you move one piece, and everything falls apart and factions form, and then when they win, they look around and new factions form,
Yeah.
and then they go, "Wait a second, why
Yeah.
not me?" Right.
Yeah.
So that's how you end up with,
Yeah.
the mess that we all know and love.
I remember a friend of mine saying that like the story of A Song of Ice and Fire is, in a way, at its heart, a story about people trying to do jobs they're very unqualified for, which is not wrong when I think about kind of all the stuff that people get up to in the story. There's a lot of people kind of doing things that they've got no business doing, or like trying to do things on their own when they could, and failing when they could totally have achieved it if they like would ask for help and trust someone.
Which
But
is also
it's hard
kind
to
of
trust people in that setting. So yeah.
it's also kind of a comment on, aristocracies in the first place. Like
Yeah.
that's because they do have no business running. Like Joffrey would not ever be an elected leader of,
Yeah,
fucking anything, right?
Yeah.
Also
It's-
has
it's-
a drastic policy on the taxes for imports from the free cities. So
well, I mean, for Adam's tourney, he definitely imported stuff from Essos. So
Now I'm just picturing listen, I don't agree with everything Joffrey says, you guys, but I do like a lot of his policies.
I think a lot of the hard
They-
for election Joffrey's already been done. So given that, I'm gonna back him.
I mean, it's like it's not like it's not on its own grounds to oppose Joffrey, but like Adam intensely dislikes that boy personally.
So yeah, it would be a mess. It would be.
It definitely would. And yeah, like I kind of think I kind of have an idea of what Adam would try to do, but it's totally up in the air whether it would work or whether he would get a
It'd be
chance.
a lot easier if we had some dragons.
And then here's the thing.
Mhm.
What if Grandpa Makar sitting with you guys in his solar with a new set of bookshelves made of solid Lannister gold, and Grandpa Makar just says, "Joffrey's our lawful king, you guys."
I mean,
Like,
I
like,
know
oh,
yeah,
I
guys,
don't
I
really-
suppose.
oh, referee, come on.
like what would what happens if your grandfather and Lord says we're backing the Lannisters? Maybe he
Yeah.
has an inscrutable reason, but doesn't share it because he's Grandpa Makar. But then it's like, fuck. Now we're back to feudalism sucking again because I hate Joffrey and I don't want to help them. But
I think
what do we do?
Yeah. I think at least half of us would argue with him, at least initially, and need to be talked round. I don't think any of us would just accept no reason for it. We would want to know at the very least why.
Yeah.
And
What a shame. Grandpa Makor stepped down today due to mental instability.
And took
He
the black.
accidentally stepped down violently.
He took the black. At his age, too.
He had an accident and took the black.
Our dear grandfather, unfortunately, sadly, tragically, brutally cut his own head off while shaving.
So yeah, it's definitely a mess. Definitely a mess.
Definitely. I only know
Anyway, since Rob will live forever, it will never come up.
Yeah.
everything's gonna be fine. Yeah.
Do we have another one? Any other questions?
The only question I know of was one. I wasn't sure how serious it was, but I think Qatar asked way at the top of like, "Will Adam ever find true love?" And I left that alone because like
Not spoiling
there
anything.
there were bigger, broader questions for everyone to deal with. But I will say, I think he will. I think he's going to have some false starts before then, but I think he'll eventually find someone nice who's on the same page as him and isn't afraid of what he's asking for. Just probably not soon.
I think Adam needs to learn what it actually costs to hire a bed warmer so we can get much cheaper prices next time he hires Lynn.
Excuse you, first. And secondly, I hired him to fight in a trial by 7. I did not hire him for that. So there. This has been... Right. I don't know how much it counts as a spoiler, so I'm trying not to say anything. Even though, because I know a lot of people don't, watch live, I've been trying to, not say a lot about it. But, yeah, I guess I guess I can probably get away with saying that, something I've kind of wanted since episode 11 finally happened. And he got together with someone he fancies, and I don't know how that's going to shake out. It's probably going to be complicated, and that's awesome. That entertains me enormously.
I am waiting for the next time Lynn runs his mouth, because I have much to say to him.
I'm definitely curious to see what the next day, what day of the wedding is going to be like, because I have no idea kind of how things transpired or what the vibe's going to be between those two by tomorrow. But we'll find out, I guess.
Who can know?
And I'm pretty sure Lynn will not be able to resist running his mouth because it seems to be who he is. So, yeah, and we know that basically everyone in the family except Adam hates him. So, yeah, I expect there to be conflict.
I don't hate him, but last time we were in his mouth, we were but young, untested youths, really. We've had a lot more violence since then.
I don't think he would actually, pick a fight. That's the thing,
I think he 100% will.
No, I mean, I think he'll, the thing is, he needles people, but I don't... But I think it kind of, what matters is if you're gonna give it any... I feel like rising to it would be counterproductive, so you're... I don't know, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but... and it's certainly probably more fun if you rise to it, but... you don't have to. You can just go, I don't have to listen to this and ignore him.
All I know is last time we had any serious talks with him, he liked to swing his dick around. However, the difference is pretty significant now between last time we talked to him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember, that entire conversation from last session, but I don't remember him saying...
I know last session. He didn't say shit to us last session.
Well, I mean, he did make reference to, all those Dornishmen he killed, but, I mean, that's, dude, it's 20 years ago.
At this point, you've killed more Dornishmen than he has.
Do you know what? You're probably right, actually. And, you know what?
And with one of us, the Bela here, took out a Kingsguard, he wasn't wounded.
I mean, I am not going to criticize someone for what is essentially, legitimate wartime conduct. Like, it's not like he violated the Geneva Convention or anything. Like, he was fighting a guy, and like, you don't just when you're in an actual battle, you don't go, "Oh, I've wounded my opponent. I'm going to leave them alone now." That's not how it works. I feel like he's getting morally judged for stuff that's not actually morally bad, or at least not that bad.
Remember that he does also have a reputation for just challenging people to duels and killing them.
Yeah.
So like he does the reputation he has is well deserved. It's
Yeah.
not like it's for the one thing.
Oh no,
Uh,
I didn't say it was.
yeah, I just
I
wanted
do.
to also remind Robert, it's
I do
not like it's not like he's only known for that one fight during the Battle of the Trident.
yeah, it's
He
actually.
is,
Oh, has reminded us many times. Do not worry.
uh,
The answer to Halsey, we don't really know. It kind of depends. Like, it could be like he was definitely like old enough to fight in the rebellion, so he was like at least 15, probably older. So like anywhere between like 15 and 25. So he could be like between 35 and 45 at this point in time. So yeah,
I've been
no,
skewing younger. I've
yeah,
been going late 30s in my head,
yeah,
partially because Adam wanted to romance him.
yeah,
And Adam is young enough that I don't want to be too
yeah.
creepy. It's still
So
super creepy, but
yeah,
not by Westerosi standards, only by ours. But still, skewing younger is less creepy. So I've been skewing younger.
yeah, same. I've kind of been thinking of him as because like his father was still alive at that point. So like I've been kind of thinking of him as like
Did his
he
father
might
die in one of the battles, the revolution?
like his father was wounded in the battle, and that's actually when he got Lady Forlorn.
Yeah,
That was his
Lynn
father's
just
sword.
Lynn just picked it up,
He just picked it
and it
up.
was like, "Let's do this." So he
Yeah,
picked it up and then led the charge on the Dornish lines.
yeah,
Um,
and honestly, like I think that's pretty impressive. But that's just me because I'm weird. um. So yeah, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't see him as being like he's not evil or anything. He's not like Joffrey or Ramsay or anything. He's a dick, but I don't think that necessarily makes him like morally repugnant or anything.
No,
That's my
he's
stance
just
on it. Basically, is like yeah, he's like
he's just an everyday dick. Sure.
yeah, and. I think there's just like I've always got this bit of like I can change him. I can make this better.
Lynn is apparently we do have the age of Lionel Corbray.
That's his older brother. Yeah,
Right. So that actually
like
gives us a
40.
top end. So the top end uh, would be Lynn born 261 at the earliest. So 39
Yeah,
at the oldest in our game.
yeah.
According to the math for yeah, so well like just like canonically he
Yeah,
is you know, well maybe just turned 40, but you know what I'm saying. Like 40
yeah,
is the
like
top end because we do apparently have an age for Lionel and we know Lionel's the older brother. So
yeah.
yeah, there we go.
And there was Lucas, who is the younger brother, but he died
Yeah, I
just
just
before King's Landing tourney. Like on the way to the tourney, he drowned, which is
so
kind of grim. But he did. He seemed like Lynn didn't seem to be too fussed about it. I get the impression that he doesn't have a good relationship with any of his family. Well, the impression I get
people.
is that after their father died and left the swords to Lynn, there's just been bad blood between him and Lionel ever since, basically because he resented that Lionel's resented that he didn't get the swords. Like he got the house. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like yeah. But anyway, like there's. I do love that his entry on a wiki of Ice and Fire described Lynn as a quarrelsome knight. I was like so this is what you need to know about him, basically. Yeah. So
With that, what else we got? Any last minute questions? Chat, anybody got anything for us?
yeah, that was all the pre-submitted stuff.
So we'll get give Chad a minute, see if they cook anything up.
Sure.
And if not, I think we'll. Bodhi is hanging out with Felicia. Sorry, Gwen.
Oh,
No Bodhi today.
sorry, Glenn.
She's used to me being here. So if Felicia isn't here, she hangs out with me. But if Felicia is here, she hangs out with Mama. And I believe Felicia is napping on the couch, which means Bodhi's probably napping on the ground next to her. So there you go. Have a mental image of a super flat Bodhi laying on the floor,
Oh my
blepping.
So I'm looking forward to that session.
Me too. I'm super bummed out that we didn't get a session this week because like half my games this week got cancelled, and I was like, and it's nobody's fault. Like it was stuff genuinely like necessitated it, but it was still like, oh man.
Shut up, plate to mine.
That was not my fault.
Shame.
The Dundee transport system betrayed me.
I'm just teasing you, buddy. It's fine.
Well, all right then.
I did get some fun stuff to get to, but we'll get to it next time, so no worries.
We get there when we get there. As with this game.
We've got nothing coming in from chat. So I think let's call it a day. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time to pick up where we left off with the wedding at the Twins. I'll be back here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and between now and then, Vidya games. So swing by and hang out. For instance, on Friday's games, it was Robert and I together streaming some Overwatch. So you
painful.
got to watch,
we did it.
you got to watch Lossapalooza as we.
A guy throwing 2 consecutive matches.
Yeah, we both went. We both.
And there was like, there seemed to be a lot of people aggravating you.
We reported the guy, but we both forgot to avoid him. So we're like, man, that fucking guy. We reported him, and then we queued up for the next match, and there he was. And we're like, hey, shit. like I was there on the right screen, and I just
feel like
didn't.
Robert is really good at Overwatch, and I completely underperformed due to the circumstances involved.
Yeah, we. I mean,
at least in the role I was playing, I'm pretty fucking good, and like we had nothing. Like we fucking could not win a goddamn match.
We won one.
Out of five matches, we had 2 throwers. Yeah. Well, the same guy throw twice. Yeah, and then everything else, we had 2 or close matches.
Yeah, we reported this guy. Skull Pocket, I think was his name. And he was telling other people what to play, and then bitching when they weren't, and then just legitimately started throwing after that.
Like he decided to fight the entire enemy team while I was healing him, and then cry because he didn't have any healing.
It took very little for him to start actively sabotaging the team, and then he did the same thing but faster on the second game. Like on the second game, he legitimately went outside the enemy team's spawn and just fed himself to them as soon as they started attacking us, and then never did anything else all game. Like he just kept constantly just walking towards them and dying, and then typing in match chat to complain about the healers. So like we reported him after the first game for gameplay sabotage, because he legitimately was. He was also typing in chat like during gunfights. Like you just see his character hold real still because he was typing to talk shit to people, right? So we reported him, but we forgot to use the avoid as teammate feature because it doesn't automatically do that when you report or block people. It's a separate process. So that's what that one just like took the wind out of our sails, that back to back with that dude, because then we were like, fuck, I didn't avoid him.
There was that fucking there was
we had one
the
game
match
that
on Hachimura where the one guy just was constantly dead every time we would group up.
Yeah, but we also had one game start off really well and we were kicking ass, so somebody from the other team left, and they left early enough that it restarted the match. You've got to play for like a minute, I think, and then everybody's locked in. But if somebody leaves before that, you just all get kicked out and you re-queue. So like, yeah, we had a really bad run. And some of it, sure,
as
because
a
you can't.
play my highest tier character and just did not matter.
Yeah. So, but we'll see if we do better next time. I will
Hope you did.
be streaming some tomorrow because Memorial Day doesn't matter to me. But I am going to be not streaming as long as normal because I got my appointment to go get my first COVID poke.
Woo!
Oh,
Um,
good.
I gave,
I don't know why it's taking so long, but
yeah,
Going
I
Friday.
I put it off for a long time because other people needed it more. Like other people go outside, like or
I think
other
the other
people
people, they
have a
don't do it.
family at home or whatever. So I was like waiting and waiting, and then I was looking, and I'm like, man, like not enough people in Texas are doing this shit. So like I'm waiting for no reason. Like there's no reason to be waiting because it's Texas and too many people think that they're going to inject you with Bill Gates 5G satellite nanos and whatever.
And
So it's
he
not happening.
his wife. So
Yeah. So then I was like, all right, let's just go ahead and book this. Like I was trying to, do the right thing for society by letting other people go first that have jobs that aren't sit right where I'm sitting right now all day, right? But yeah, so I finally got that. So the afternoon slot that I've got, I might need to stop streaming a hair early, but I should be streaming tomorrow, and then of course Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all 3 days. We'll be back.
I'll be a little free tomorrow.
Oh.
So. All right.
Fellow
cool.
Americans, have a good Memorial Day. Please remember that Memorial Day is for those that died in their service, so you don't need to go thank every veteran you see or post jingoistic bullshit. It's for the people that we lost, and it's supposed to be a reminder that war is bad, not good. So be careful with your memes tomorrow, and be ready to argue with your drunk racist uncles and all that good stuff, just like Thanksgiving. But everybody stay safe. Have a good one. Enjoy the long weekend if you're here stateside. Enjoy not living in America otherwise. And we will see you next time.
Take care of yourselves and each other.
So.